Imagine a battlefield, not with the clash of steel on steel or the shouts of charging horsemen, but with the earth trembling under the tread of giant beasts, trumpeting war cries that shake the very foundations of Rome. Picture soldiers astride these titans, not just guiding them, but commanding them in deadly unison, turning the tide of battle with each thundering step. This wasn't a figment of a Roman soldier's imagination, nor a nightmare brought on by fever. It was the terrifying reality of facing Hannibal Barca's war elephants, and their sheer size and ferocity turned even the mightiest Roman legions to jelly with fear. Let's start at the beginning of this tale of terror. In present-day Spain, around 237 BC, Hannibal Barca was born. His father, Hamilcar Barca, was a general in Carthage's employ, and from him, young Hannibal inherited a deep-seated hatred for Rome. When Hamilcar died in battle against the Romans, he placed the young Hannibal, who was only 9 years old, under oath to forever be an enemy of Rome. This oath marked the beginning of a lifelong vendetta and set the stage for Hannibal's future campaigns. But Rome wasn't immediately threatened by the young Barca. Hannibal had much to learn, first as a military leader and then as a commander of Carthage's armies. He honed his skills on the battlefields of Spain, gradually proving himself worthy of the Barca name. During this time, Hannibal's reputation as a skilled general grew, but his true moment would come when Carthage found itself dragged into the Second Punic War against the Roman Republic. Carthage was already suffering defeats at sea. Their navy was no match for the growing might of Rome, but on land, Hannibal was a different story altogether. The opportunity came when the Roman dictator, Lucius Aemilius Paulus, marched into Spain to try and capture Hannibal. This invasion of Carthaginian territory proved to be a fatal mistake. As soon as Aemilius crossed the southern border, Hannibal struck, crushing his forces at the Battle of the Baetis River, which is now the Rio de la Plata in Seville. Yet Hannibal knew one victory wasn't enough. To truly strike a decisive blow against Rome, he needed to take the fight directly to their doorstep. But there was one seemingly insurmountable obstacle between him and Rome: the Alps. These towering mountains had never been crossed by a war elephant, and many believed it was impossible. Hannibal, however, wasn't known for accepting limitations. He assembled a force that included approximately 90 elephants, an elite band of Numidian cavalry and infantry drawn from various parts of the Carthaginian Empire. This diverse army reflected the multicultural nature of Carthage, a city that prided itself on its inclusivity and cosmopolitan character. But what made Hannibal's army truly terrifying was the inclusion of those war elephants. Standing up to 11 feet tall and weighing over 6 tons, these creatures weren't just larger than life. They were life-sized nightmares. With tusks like curved swords and the ability to trample entire formations of soldiers, they were the epitome of raw natural power. The crossing began in the summer of 218 BC. Over the course of several weeks, Hannibal's forces scaled the treacherous mountain passes, facing not just the harsh terrain, but also inclement weather. Of the 90 elephants that started the journey, only a fraction made it through. But the spirit of Hannibal and his troops never faltered. They pressed on, surviving on a combination of supplies, forage, and the occasional plunder from local villages. When they finally reached the plains of northern Italy, it was with a reduced force, but with spirits that were high with triumph. The sight that greeted the Romans when Hannibal emerged from the mountains was one of awe and dread. The war elephants, with their tusks gleaming like polished ivory in the sunlight, stood as symbols of an invading force that refused to be stopped. It was a testament to Hannibal's tenacity and military brilliance that he had brought these massive creatures across some of Europe's most formidable landscapes. Hannibal's victories at the Trebia, Lake Trasimene, and Cannae were more than just military triumphs. They were masterclasses in strategy, bold maneuvers that exploited Roman weaknesses and turned their strengths against them. At the Battle of the Trebia, Hannibal used his knowledge of the terrain to his advantage, setting up an ambush that caught the Romans off guard. The war elephants played a pivotal role here, their surprise appearance shattering the Roman formations and causing widespread panic. At the Battle of Lake Trasimene, Hannibal displayed his tactical brilliance, choosing a narrow passage through which the Roman reinforcements had to pass. This forced the Romans into a choke point, making them vulnerable to Hannibal's flanking maneuvers. The war elephants once again played a crucial role, their presence making any attempt at a Roman escape futile. But it was at the Battle of Cannae, where Hannibal's genius shone brightest. He lured the Romans into a valley, forming a crescent-shaped battle line with his troops. The war elephants were positioned in the center, forming a deadly heart of his formation. When the Romans attacked, they fell into a trap. Hannibal's cavalry harassed the Roman flanks, while the war elephants mowed down entire sections of the Roman army. This battle became one of the most infamous in history, a testament to Hannibal's strategic brilliance and the terrifying effectiveness of his war elephants. Rome was on the brink of collapse. The repeated defeats at the hands of Hannibal shook the very foundations of the Roman Republic. There were calls in the Senate for peace negotiations, even if it meant giving up large swaths of Italian territory to Hannibal. But not all Romans were ready to surrender. One man in particular refused to accept defeat, Gaius Marius, a brilliant general who had reformed the Roman army. Realizing that defeating Hannibal directly was nearly impossible, Rome shifted its focus to logistics. The consul Lucius Aemilius Paulus decided to invade Carthaginian-held Spain to cut off Hannibal's supply lines. This campaign was successful and dealt a major blow to Carthage's economy. Rome was slowly tightening the net around Carthage, and in 212 BC, it landed another critical blow, capturing the key Carthaginian stronghold of New Carthage, which is now Cadiz in Spain. However, Rome underestimated the resolve of Carthage. Even as its treasury emptied and its resources dwindled, Carthage refused to make peace. It was during this time that Hannibal received a message from his brother, Hasdrubal Barca. Hasdrubal, who was also a general in the Carthaginian army, had a proposal that could turn the tide of the war in Carthage's favor. He suggested that they send reinforcements to Hannibal, allowing him to raise a new army in Italy and launch a counteroffensive. This plan required a massive investment, but the Carthaginian leadership felt it was worth the risk. If Hannibal could secure a decisive victory, it could break the will of the Roman people to fight, ending the war in Carthage's favor. Rome was shocked. They had expected Carthage to sue for peace, not raise more war elephants. In the span of just a few years, Hannibal had become a thorn in Rome's side, a constant reminder of their failures. The sight of the war elephants, coupled with the memory of their fallen soldiers, turned the streets of Rome into a cauldron of fear and anger. This growing unease was something the Roman elite couldn't afford. By 215 BC, the Roman Republic was facing a crisis. The continuous defeats at the hands of Hannibal had drained their resources and demoralized their troops. The thought of peace with Carthage, even with ceding territory, became more appealing than continuing the costly war. But it was the eruption of Mount Vesuvius that truly tested Rome's mettle. The year is 79 AD. You are in Pompeii. Your day begins like any other, tending your shop, greeting friends, enjoying the sun-drenched streets of this bustling Roman city. Life is good. Then the earth trembles, the sky darkens, and before you know it, fire rains from the heavens. Mount Vesuvius, usually a silent giant, has awakened, and the entire city is about to be buried in ash and pumice. This cataclysmic event, along with the equally devastating eruption of Mount Palorum, served as a stark reminder of the fragility of life. For the Romans, this tragedy coincided with the height of the Punic Wars, a series of conflicts that pitted Rome against Carthage, two rival Mediterranean powers. The wars, particularly the Second Punic War, raging at the time, had already exacted a heavy toll on Rome. The threat posed by Hannibal Barca, a brilliant Carthaginian general, loomed large. Hannibal, with his war elephants, had managed to cross the Alps and had inflicted crushing defeats on the Roman armies. The eruption seemed like a punishment from the gods themselves, a test of Rome's resilience in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds. Now let's return to our story. The eruption of Mount Vesuvius didn't just devastate Pompeii physically, it shook Rome's psyche. It became a potent symbol of the chaos and destruction that war brought. This catastrophe resonated deeply with the Romans. It became a rallying cry, uniting them against Carthage and Hannibal. For the first time, the idea of peace with Carthage, previously gaining traction, was outright rejected. The eruption galvanized the Roman populace, transforming grief and fear into a powerful force for unity and resistance. It was as if the gods themselves were siding with Rome, providing the impetus they needed to stand firm against their enemies. In the aftermath of this disaster, the Romans dug deep within themselves, finding a strength they didn't know they possessed. This newfound determination led them to rally around their leaders, preparing to face whatever challenges lay ahead with renewed vigor. The eruption of Vesuvius, instead of breaking Rome, forged it. It hardened the resolve of the Roman people and set the stage for the final act of the Second Punic War. Even though the legendary general Hannibal Barca did not win every battle, his impact on military strategy and history is undeniable. His daring tactics and innovative use of resources continue to inspire awe and wonder. His story teaches us about courage, strategy, and the indomitable spirit of those who dare to challenge the odds. And as long as his legend lives on, so will the spirit of the fearless general who dared to unleash war elephants on Rome. Hey, thanks for watching. We hope you learned something new and exciting about Hannibal and his war elephants. Let us know in the comments below if you have any suggestions for topics we should cover in the future. Don't forget to subscribe for more engaging historical tales. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you in the next video.